The hidden truth awakens. The year was 2405, and the galaxy was calm, too calm for most. After the great galactic war had ended centuries ago, Earth had disappeared from the stars. Its once thriving civilization had vanished, leaving only a few scattered legends about its past. Some believed Earth had been destroyed in the war. Others thought it was a mere myth. Yet one thing was certain. No one had seen or heard from Earth for generations. Out there, in the vastness of space, the galaxy had learned to move on. The Galactic Council, formed by the most powerful civilizations, had taken control. Peace, at least on the surface, had settled across the stars. The galaxy was united by trade, diplomacy, and the distant memories of a time when Earth had been the center of all things. Earth's once hidden technologies were thought to be lost forever, buried beneath the ruins of a destroyed planet. But a storm was coming, and it would start with a signal. On the edge of the galaxy, in a remote research station, a group of scientists was working late into the night. Among them was Dr. Caden Darnell, a young scientist with a passion for uncovering the past. He spent his days analyzing old transmissions, trying to decode the mysteries of long-forgotten civilizations. His colleagues often laughed at his obsession with Earth, dismissing the idea of a lost fleet as childish fantasy. But Caden had a hunch, a gut feeling that the truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered. One evening, as the station's AI systems ran through routine data analysis, something strange happened. A burst of static broke the silence of the lab. It was an odd signal, unlike anything they had encountered before. At first, it seemed like a simple glitch, but Caden, ever the curious one, insisted they investigate further. As they decoded the signal, a chill ran down Caden's spine. This was no glitch. The signal was coming from Earth. Caden's hands trembled as he read the data on his screen. The transmission wasn't random static. It was a highly structured, encrypted message. It seemed to be decades, if not centuries, old. But it had a strange, eerie familiarity. There were no coordinates, no specific location. Just a message, a single line of text that kept repeating. The fleet is awakening. Prepare. Caden couldn't believe what he was seeing. Earth's fleet, the one buried deep beneath its surface, the one he had spent years reading about in ancient texts, was real. And now it was awakening. His heart raced as he sent the data to the rest of his team. His mind raced with thoughts of what this meant. If Earth's fleet was real, it would be unlike any military force in the galaxy. For centuries, the galaxy had lived without the threat of humanity. But this could change everything. Could Earth's fleet still be under Earth's control, or had someone else awakened it? The team reacted with disbelief. But as the data poured in, they began to realize that Caden's findings were genuine. The fleet, buried beneath layers of Earth's once thriving cities, had been hidden for a reason. And now, after hundreds of years, it was waking up. The question was no longer if the fleet would return. It was when. And more importantly, who would control it. The Galactic Council had long dismissed any rumors about Earth's fleet. It had been so long since the planet had vanished, and in their minds, Earth had been reduced to myth. But now, with this new discovery, it was clear that the rumors were not just true. They were about to become reality. The news spread quickly, like wildfire across the galaxy. It wasn't just a scientific discovery. It was a potential galactic war waiting to happen. What would the Galactic Council do if Earth's fleet was real? How would the other species react to this sudden return of humanity's ancient power? And most importantly, would Earth's fleet come in peace, or would it demand retribution for the centuries of silence? As the research station continued to analyze the signal, a new layer of information surfaced. The signal wasn't just about the fleet. Hidden within the message was something else, a warning. The fleet's systems were not fully awake yet, but once they did, the galaxy would be changed forever. The hidden fleet wasn't just a military force. It was a symbol, a representation of Earth's potential to rise again. Caden knew this was just the beginning. The calm, peaceful galaxy everyone had grown used to was about to be turned upside down. Earth's fleet was a power unlike any other, and it was awakening from its long slumber. As the days passed, the story of Earth's hidden fleet spread across the galaxy. The Galactic Council scrambled to cover up the truth, but it was too late. The people of the galaxy were beginning to wonder what kind of threat Earth's fleet could pose. Could Earth rise again and claim its place at the center of the galaxy? Or would this hidden fleet bring nothing but destruction? Caden stood in the control room, staring out at the stars. He knew what was coming. The fleet was awakening, and with it, everything would change. The galaxy would be forced to face the consequences of a long-forgotten power. There was no turning back now. The fleet's awakening had already begun, and with that, the first spark of chaos was set into motion. The galaxy reacts. The galaxy, once calm and united, now found itself on the edge of a precipice. News of Earth's hidden fleet spread like wildfire across every corner of the galaxy. As rumors swirled, the Galactic Council scrambled to maintain control and keep the situation under wraps. But it was too late. Too many eyes were watching, and too many voices were speaking out. Within the Galactic Council's vast chambers, leaders from different species met in urgent sessions. The once proud alliance of civilizations now found itself in a rare moment of vulnerability. Earth, long thought to be destroyed or forgotten, was suddenly back in the game. And the truth was clear. Earth's fleet had been hiding for centuries, biding its time, waiting for the right moment to strike. It wasn't just the Council that was in turmoil. Across the galaxy, every major power had their own plans. Some feared the return of Earth's fleet and what it meant for the galaxy's delicate balance. Others saw an opportunity to ally with Earth and harness its fleet for their own purposes. But no one knew exactly what the humans would do now that they had awakened. Admiral Caden Darnell, the scientist who had first uncovered the truth about Earth's fleet, now found himself in the midst of this chaos. His discovery had led to more questions than answers. With the knowledge of Earth's fleet awakening, he felt the weight of the galaxy's future pressing down on him. What would the humans do? Would they seek revenge for their years of silence and isolation? Or would they simply disappear once again? In the Galactic Council's chambers, the leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. The president of the council, a wise and cautious leader named Selver, addressed the room, his voice calm but filled with urgency. "The situation is clear," he said, looking at the various leaders seated around the table. "Earth's fleet has reawakened, and we must prepare for the consequences. The last time they were active, the galaxy nearly fell apart. We cannot afford another war. We must know their intentions before they come for us." The room fell silent as the leaders of the various galactic races exchanged worried glances. The memory of the Great Galactic War was still fresh in their minds, even after so many years. Earth's power, once thought to be a thing of the past, now seemed to be the only thing capable of bringing the galaxy to its knees. Admiral Juno, the leader of Earth's fleet, had no interest in diplomacy. She was part of a new generation of humans who had never known peace. To them, the galaxy had abandoned Earth, leaving it to rot in silence. They had lived through centuries of isolation, and now they were finally reclaiming what was theirs. Juno stood on the command deck of Earth's flagship, the Eclipse, watching as the first of her fleet's ships rose from the hidden bunkers beneath the surface of Earth. She couldn't believe it was finally happening. After all these years, humanity's ancient fleet was awake. The ships were massive, their dark, sleek designs unlike anything seen in the galaxy for centuries. They were weapons of unimaginable power, far beyond anything the Galactic Council could ever hope to build. The Eclipse was the flagship of Earth's fleet, a symbol of humanity's rebirth. Juno looked at the holographic display in front of her, showing a map of the galaxy. The fleets of the Galactic Council were scattered across the stars, vulnerable, unprepared for what was about to happen. "Prepare the fleet," Juno said in a low voice, her words carrying an air of finality. "We will make contact with the galaxy on our terms. They will know that Earth is not to be forgotten." Across the galaxy, the Council's fleets began to mobilize in response to the rising threat. The once vast alliance of civilizations was now fractured. Some races were more eager to confront Earth, fearing its return might mean the collapse of the delicate peace that had been forged after the war. Others, seeing Earth's fleet as a sign of hope, began to reach out to Juno, hoping to form alliances before the galaxy was plunged into another war. As Earth's fleet rose from its hidden bunkers, the rest of the galaxy's forces took notice. Spies and informants from the Council began reporting strange activity on Earth's moon. Massive ships, some over 1,000 kilometers long, were slowly emerging, their dark hulls gleaming against the light of the distant stars. Juno stood at the helm of the Eclipse, the flagship of the fleet. Her gaze remained fixed on the stars, a mixture of anticipation and dread in her heart. She knew that this moment would define the future of humanity. The time had come for Earth to reclaim its place in the galaxy. "We have waited long enough," Juno whispered, her voice barely audible against the hum of the ship's engines. "Now we take back what is ours." As the fleet moved into position, the rest of the galaxy had no choice but to react. News of Earth's return was now spreading at an alarming rate. No one knew what to expect. Some feared Earth's fleet would seek revenge for the centuries of isolation and neglect. Others hoped Earth's return would usher in a new era of peace and cooperation. But one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Would Earth's fleet bring peace, or would it ignite another war across the stars? The first contact. The galaxy was on edge, its inhabitants caught between fear and curiosity as Earth's fleet made its presence known. After centuries of silence, humanity's once hidden ships were rising from their slumber, ready to take on the galaxy. And now, the time for secrecy was over. The galaxy could no longer deny what was coming. The Eclipse, the flagship of Earth's fleet, was the first to make its move. With its sleek, intimidating design and massive size, it cut through the void of space like a shadow. The other ships of Earth's fleet followed closely behind, their engines glowing with the power that had been dormant for so long. As the fleet made its way toward the heart of the galaxy's leaders scrambled to react. The Galactic Council, once the governing force of the galaxy, had already mobilized its forces. But no one could have predicted how quickly Earth's fleet would move. The first transmission from Earth's fleet was simple, direct, without flourish. The transmission came through on every channel, every frequency. It was not a message of peace, nor a declaration of war. It was an ultimatum. Earth is here. Prepare to face the truth. The message echoed across the galaxy, sending waves of panic through every civilization. The people of the galaxy had lived without fear for generations, but now that was about to change. Earth had been forgotten, erased from history, but now it was back with a force they had not prepared for. In the Galactic Council chambers, leaders from every species had gathered in an emergency meeting. The news of Earth's return had shocked them all, but it was now clear that their worst fears had come true. The once dominant Earth was not only alive but fully equipped with a fleet of unimaginable power. And they were demanding answers. Selver, the president of the Galactic Council, stood at the center of the room. His face was grim, his eyes betraying a deep unease. He had never been one to panic. But there was no denying that Earth's fleet posed a danger like no other. "Prepare the defense," Selver ordered, his voice calm but commanding. "We cannot afford to underestimate them. They have been in hiding for far too long, and now they are here to reclaim their place in the galaxy." Meanwhile, on Earth's flagship, Admiral Juno stared at the stars before her. The silence aboard the Eclipse was deafening as the crew awaited her orders. The galaxy was watching, and soon, the entire galaxy would know that Earth had returned. "We've waited long enough," Juno said, her voice steady but filled with anticipation. "Send the message to the galaxy. Let them know we are no longer a forgotten myth. We are humanity, and we will not be silenced." The transmission was sent to the galaxy. But this time, it wasn't just an ultimatum. It was a challenge. The eclipse sent out a signal to the Council's fleets, demanding that they meet in neutral space for a confrontation. Earth's fleet would not be ignored any longer. It was time for humanity to reclaim its place among the stars. As the message spread, reactions rippled across the galaxy. In the capital of the Zorith Empire, the leaders held an emergency council meeting, debating how best to respond. The Zorith had once been Earth's greatest rivals before the war, and their hatred for humanity was still deeply ingrained. But now they were faced with a fleet far beyond their capabilities. "Do we answer their call?" General Lyra of the Zorith military asked, her sharp eyes scanning the room. "Or do we wait for them to make the first move?" Across the galaxy, in the peaceful and scholarly city of the Draken Republic, a group of alien diplomats gathered to discuss the news. The Draken had never known war, and many of them were terrified by the power of Earth's fleet. Some feared that this was the end of the peace they had fought so hard to maintain. But there was one thing that all species agreed on: Earth's return was inevitable, and the galaxy would have to face the truth of humanity's power. While the galaxy's leaders debated, Caden Darnell, the scientist who had first uncovered the truth about Earth's fleet, stood at his desk in a quiet corner of the galaxy. He had no position of power, but he knew that Earth's return would affect every life in the galaxy. He wasn't sure whether humanity was seeking revenge for past wrongs or simply asserting its place among the stars, but he knew that the truth would soon be revealed. The fleet's purpose would become clear, and with it, the fate of the galaxy would be decided. "What are they planning?" Caden muttered to himself, staring at the screen before him. He could feel the tension growing. Everyone was waiting for the fleet to make its move. Back on the Eclipse, Admiral Juno stood on the command bridge, her hands firmly gripping the control panel. The entire crew was awaiting her command. "Prepare for the meeting," she said, her voice strong. "The time for peace has passed. The galaxy will either accept humanity's return or face the consequences." As the fleet moved toward the rendezvous point, the galaxy held its breath. What would happen when Earth's fleet met the Galactic Council? Would humanity's ancient fleet usher in a new era of peace, or would it be the spark that ignited a new war? The fate of the galaxy was now in the balance, and there was no turning back. The meeting of powers. The stars seemed to tremble in anticipation as Earth's fleet approached the neutral zone, the location where the first meeting between the Galactic Council and humanity's powerful fleet would take place. The Eclipse, Earth's flagship, led the way, its massive form cutting through the vast emptiness of space like a dark, unstoppable force. Behind it, dozens of other ships followed, each one exuding the sense of power and readiness, as if the very fabric of the galaxy was about to be torn apart by their presence. The Galactic Council had already assembled their own fleet, though it was nothing compared to Earth's. They had mobilized every warship and cruiser they could spare. Their ships moved in unison, but even from a distance, it was clear they were vastly outmatched. The Eclipse alone seemed to cast a shadow over the entire fleet, and with every passing second, the gap between Earth's ancient strength and the galaxy's fragile peace seemed to grow wider. Zelver, the president of the Galactic Council, stood on the bridge of his command ship, staring out into the void. His eyes were hard with determination, but there was also a hint of uncertainty. He had been through many negotiations, faced countless crises, but nothing like this. Earth, the long-forgotten world, had returned, and it was clear that its intentions were far from peaceful. "We cannot allow Earth to rewrite the galaxy's history," Zelver muttered under his breath. His mind raced as he tried to think of a way to prevent Earth from taking control. "We need to ensure they understand that we won't be intimidated." But deep down, he knew that Earth's return was inevitable. The galaxy had lived in relative peace for far too long. Earth's fleet had been dormant for centuries, but now it had awakened, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Meanwhile, aboard the Eclipse, Admiral Juno stood silently, her gaze fixed on the vastness of space. She had lived for this moment, the moment when humanity would reclaim its rightful place in the galaxy. No longer would Earth be a forgotten world. No longer would humanity be pushed aside by the more powerful civilizations. Status report, Juno called out, her voice calm yet filled with a quiet intensity. Everything is in position, Admiral, her first officer, Commander Ryan, replied. We've made contact with the neutral zone authorities. The Council's fleet is already waiting for us. They're expecting a peaceful resolution. Juno's lips curled into a faint smile. Let them expect peace. They'll soon understand that humanity isn't here to negotiate. We've been silent for too long. As the two fleets slowly approached the neutral meeting area, the tension grew thick in the air. There was an unspoken understanding among both sides. This meeting was not about diplomacy. It was about power. The galaxy had forgotten Earth, and now it would remember. Selver, standing on the command deck of his ship, glanced nervously at the view screen. There was no mistaking the sheer power of Earth's fleet. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The sleek ships, the dark metallic hulls, the intimidating presence, they were a reminder that Earth had never truly disappeared. It had been waiting, hiding in the shadows, for the perfect moment to rise again. A voice from the comm system broke Selver's concentration. Sir, we've received a message from Earth's flagship. They are requesting to initiate the meeting. Selver straightened, taking a deep breath. It was time. Open the channel, he commanded. The holographic screen in front of him flickered, and a moment later, the image of Admiral Juno appeared. She stood tall and resolute, her expression cold and calculating. This is Admiral Juno of Earth's fleet, she said, her voice steady. You've been expecting us. Selver fought to maintain his composure. Admiral Juno, I trust this meeting is for peaceful negotiations. Juno's eyes narrowed. Peaceful? I've come to tell you that peace has not been our path for centuries. We've been silent, but the time for silence is over. Selver's heart raced. What do you want, Admiral? I want the galaxy to remember Earth, Juno replied, her voice cutting through the tension. I want you to understand that humanity has never been gone. We've been waiting. And now we take our rightful place among the stars. Selver's face tightened. He knew there was no negotiating with this. Earth was no longer the helpless, forgotten planet it once was. It had returned with a vengeance, and the galaxy had no idea how to handle it. Admiral, we are prepared to discuss the future of Earth within the Council, Selver said, trying to remain calm. But we cannot allow you to simply seize control of the galaxy. Juno's lips curled into a slight smile. The galaxy does not control us anymore, Selver. You may think you are in charge, but it's time for Earth to take back what was stolen. Selver's hands tightened around the armrests of his chair. He could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. Earth's fleet was not here to make allies. It was here to reclaim its place in the galaxy, regardless of the consequences. The silence between them grew heavy, and for a moment, it seemed like time itself had stopped. The entire galaxy waited with bated breath, knowing that this was no ordinary meeting. This was the moment that would decide the fate of countless civilizations. Admiral Juno's eyes remained locked with Selver's, her expression unwavering. She knew that the galaxy would never be the same again. Earth had risen from the ashes, and it was no longer the weak, isolated world it once was. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. We'll see you soon, Selver, Juno said coldly. And when we do, you will understand that Earth is no longer a footnote in your history. With that, the transmission cut off, leaving Selver and the rest of the Galactic Council in stunned silence. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the first contact had been made. There was no going back. The gathering storm. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Galactic Council in a state of stunned silence. The weight of Admiral Juno's words hung in the air like a storm cloud, dark and foreboding. No one had expected such hostility from Earth's fleet. The galaxy had thought humanity was long gone, reduced to myth and legend. But now, they were very real, and very angry. Zelver, the president of the Galactic Council, stood motionless on the command deck of his flagship. The quiet hum of the ship's systems seemed deafening in the wake of Juno's declaration. His thoughts raced, and for the first time in many years, he felt a deep uncertainty. The Council had managed to keep the peace for generations, but they had never faced a threat like this. "Prepare for all possibilities," Zelver said quietly, his voice steady, though his eyes betrayed the fear he felt. Earth's fleet is not here to negotiate. They are here to take what they believe is theirs, and we must be ready for whatever comes next. The officers around him nodded solemnly. Zelver knew they were all thinking the same thing. Earth's return was not just a political crisis, it was a military one. The fleet they had awakened was beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Even the combined forces of the Council would struggle to hold their ground if Earth decided to take the fight to them. On Earth's flagship, the Eclipse, Admiral Juno stood tall in front of a large tactical display, the cold light of the star systems flickering across her face. She watched the readings, her mind sharp and focused. Every ship in her fleet was in perfect formation, ready to move at her command. "Send word to the fleet," Juno ordered, her voice cold and commanding. "We have waited long enough. The galaxy must understand that Earth will no longer be a footnote in its history." Her first officer, Commander Ryan, turned to her, his face etched with concern. "Admiral, are you sure about this? We could risk igniting a war. The galaxy is not ready for the power we bring." Juno's eyes remained fixed on the screen, her hands clasped behind her back. "They are the ones who aren't ready, Commander. The galaxy has forgotten Earth. It has forgotten our strength, our will, our right to exist as a force in the stars. It's time they remember." The fleet had been dormant for centuries, but Earth's warriors had never stopped training. The ships had waited, hidden away in secret for this very moment. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming what was lost, what had been taken. The galaxy had prospered, but humanity had been forgotten. "We've waited long enough," Juno repeated, her voice growing colder, more resolute. "Prepare for the next phase. We will make our presence known." As the Eclipse moved into position for the final confrontation, Juno could feel the eyes of the galaxy upon her. Every species, every leader was watching, wondering what Earth would do next. Would they open fire? Would they demand their place among the stars? Or would they simply erase the Council's fleet from existence? Back on the Council's side, the leaders were discussing their options with growing panic. In the Great Council chambers, representatives from every species were gathered in an emergency meeting. The crisis at hand was unlike anything they had ever faced. "We cannot let them dominate the galaxy," one of the representatives from the Zorath Empire argued, his voice trembling with anger. "We've kept the peace for centuries. Earth has no right to disrupt that." "But what if they are right?" Another voice interjected. "What if Earth's fleet is too powerful to ignore? We can't underestimate them. The technology they possess could change everything. If we attack, we may very well be signing our own destruction." Zelver sat at the head of the table, his face grave as he considered his options. The Council had always prided itself on diplomacy, but with Earth's fleet now standing at the galaxy's door, diplomacy seemed like an illusion. The only question left was whether to resist or to surrender. "We can't let them dictate our future," Zelver finally said, his voice resolute. "But we cannot do this alone. We must unite the galaxy, or we will fall." The Council began to mobilize its forces, sending out messages to the leaders of every star system. It was clear that Earth would not back down, and if they had to face the full might of the Council's fleet, then so be it. Meanwhile, Caden Darnell, The scientist who had uncovered the truth about Earth's hidden fleet was watching the developments unfold from his quiet corner of the galaxy. He had known that this day would come, but even he had not anticipated the full scale of the conflict that was about to unfold. Caden had been one of the first to discover the ancient archives on Earth that detailed the rise and fall of humanity. He had read about the technology, the power, and the dark history that had been hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Now he was witnessing the consequences of his discoveries. What will the galaxy do? Caden asked himself, watching as both fleets prepared for the inevitable conflict. He knew that Earth was not just fighting for power, it was fighting for its place in the stars. In the distance, the Council's fleet began to take position, their ships lined up in a defensive formation. They were ready for whatever Earth's fleet would throw at them. But no one, not even Silver or Juno, knew what would happen when the two fleets finally collided. The calm before the storm was unbearable. The galaxy, which had lived in peace for so long, now teetered on the brink of war. And at the heart of it all was Earth, a world thought to be lost forever, but now reborn as a power capable of shaking the foundations of the galaxy. As the eclipse moved into position, Juno stood at the command center, her face steely and determined. "Prepare for battle," she said quietly, knowing that the galaxy would never be the same again. The gathering storm was here. The galaxy would soon know whether humanity would reclaim its place among the stars, or whether it would ignite a war that would consume everything. The clash of titans. The galaxy held its breath as the two fleets, Earth's ancient, powerful armada and the Galactic Council's unified forces, positioned themselves for the greatest conflict in centuries. The stars, once peaceful witnesses to the slow movement of time, now blazed with the heat of a coming war. Every ship, every fleet, every commander knew this moment would decide the future. The eclipse led the charge. It was a beast of unimaginable size, with its sleek, dark form cutting through the void like an unstoppable juggernaut. The mighty flagship of Earth's fleet had not been seen for centuries, but its arrival had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Now it was ready to unleash everything humanity had hidden away for so long. The fleet behind it was no less impressive. Sleek warships, heavily armored cruisers, and deadly destroyers, all waiting for the order to strike. Admiral Juno stood at the heart of the eclipse, her steely eyes scanning the fleet's readiness. She felt no fear, only determination. This was the moment humanity had waited for. And now that they had risen from the shadows, they would not be silenced again. "Status report," Juno commanded, her voice unwavering. "Everything is in place, Admiral," Commander Ryan replied, his tone tense. "The Council's fleet is already positioning for battle. It's clear they're preparing to resist." Juno nodded. She had expected nothing less. The Council was strong, but their strength was nothing compared to the might of Earth's ancient fleet. The technologies they possessed were far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The weapons, the shields, the sheer firepower, it was all enough to devastate entire fleets in an instant. "Activate the defense protocols," Juno ordered, her eyes narrowing. "We don't want surprises. And prepare for offensive maneuvers. The galaxy will soon learn that Earth's power has returned." On the opposite side, Silver stood with his hand on the armrest of his command chair, his eyes scanning the display of the Council's fleet. He knew they were ready, but even as the fleet gathered in perfect formation, there was an undeniable sense of unease. His mind raced with calculations, strategies, and possible outcomes. It was a conflict unlike anything he had ever encountered. "Admiral, we are locked in position," a voice from his tactical officer called out. "The Earth fleet is still moving, but they haven't made an aggressive move yet." Silver's eyes tightened. The silence between the two forces felt as if it could shatter the fabric of the galaxy. He knew they couldn't wait forever. "Send the signal. Tell every fleet to prepare for full-scale engagement." Just as the message was sent, the stillness of space was broken. Earth's fleet opened fire first, without warning. The eclipse unleashed a volley of energy blasts so powerful that the shockwaves sent ripples across the fabric of space. The first of the Council's ships were destroyed instantly, their shields unable to withstand the intensity of the attack. A massive explosion rippled outward, and the light from the blast illuminated the darkness of space. The Council's fleet retaliated, their own weapons lighting up in a blaze of energy. But it was clear that Earth's fleet was on a different level. Their ships were faster, their firepower more advanced, and their tactics were ruthless. The battle had begun, and the fate of the galaxy now hung in the balance. Zelver's flagship shook as the first of the Council's ships exploded in space. The alarms blared, warning of incoming fire. His heart pounded in his chest as he gripped the chair in front of him, his mind racing with commands. But even as he shouted orders, he could see the truth. The Council was already on the back foot. "Return fire," he ordered. "All ships, open fire. Do not let them break through our lines." The massive battle unfolded before their eyes. The once pristine space, filled with peaceful alliances and quiet diplomacy, was now an arena of devastation. Ships danced between explosions, their weapons firing incessantly, as the stars above became engulfed in the haze of battle. On Earth's side, Juno remained unshaken. "We will not stop until we've claimed what is ours," she muttered, watching as Earth's fleet pushed forward. Her mind was already calculating the next move, thinking several steps ahead. The Council's resistance was expected, but their power was no match for Earth's hidden fleet. The eclipse fired another volley, tearing through the defenses of a nearby Council cruiser. The ship disintegrated in a burst of flames, leaving nothing but debris. There was no mercy. There would be no second chances. Earth had returned to take its place, and it was making its presence known. As the battle raged, Caden Darnell, the scientist who had uncovered the truth about Earth's fleet, sat in his observation station, watching from the far reaches of the galaxy. He knew that this was just the beginning. The galactic balance was tipping, and there would be no turning back. From his vantage point, Caden saw the devastating power of Earth's fleet, and it filled him with a mixture of awe and fear. He had always known humanity had the potential to rise again, but he had never imagined it would come with such ferocity. The tide of battle was turning in favor of Earth's fleet. The Galactic Council, though powerful, was struggling to contain the overwhelming force that Earth had unleashed. The Council's ships were slower, their shields weaker, and their tactics more predictable compared to the brutal efficiency of the eclipse and its companions. Juno's voice rang through the comm system, cutting through the chaos of the battlefield. "This is Earth's fleet. You will yield, or you will be destroyed. This is not a negotiation. This is our time." Her words echoed across the battlefield, as the remaining Council ships hesitated. The realization began to settle in. Earth's fleet was not only superior in power, but also in resolve. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now it was paying the price. The battle was far from over, but the momentum was shifting. The Council's forces were being decimated, their numbers thinning with each passing moment. And as Earth's fleet surged forward, their purpose was clear. This was not just a battle for survival. This was a battle for the future, and humanity was determined to win. The galaxy in ruins. The galaxy was on the edge of total collapse. The battle between Earth's fleet and the Galactic Council had raged for hours, and the once mighty forces of the Council were in disarray. Ships that had once dominated the stars now lay scattered in space, their broken hulls floating among the wreckage. The power of Earth's fleet, which had been hidden away for centuries, had unleashed a new era of terror and dominance. On the eclipse, Admiral Juno stood at the heart of the command center, her eyes fixed on the vast display screens. The sight before her was both awe-inspiring and horrifying. An entire armada of Council ships reduced to rubble, their defeat inevitable. Yet, despite the victory, a somber feeling lingered in the air. Juno had expected this war, but she had not anticipated the full extent of the destruction. The galaxy was fractured, its once peaceful alliances now in tatters. "We've won," Commander Ryan said, his voice a mixture of relief and disbelief. He stood beside Juno, his eyes reflecting the devastation outside. But at what cost? The galaxy will never be the same. Juno remained silent for a moment, her expression unreadable. She had spent so many years preparing for this day, knowing that humanity's return would be marked by violence. But the weight of the destruction was beginning to sink in. The war was far from over, and Earth's role in the galaxy would never again be the same. "Send a message to the survivors," Juno finally said, her voice cold and firm. "The Galactic Council is no more. The galaxy is ours to claim. We will rebuild it, but it will be on our terms. The era of the Council's rule is over." Meanwhile, on the remnants of the Council's flagship, Selver surveyed the damage. His face was pale, and his body slumped with the weight of the defeat. The Galactic Council had been his life, and now it was a shattered dream. There was no denying the power of Earth's fleet, and the truth was clear. They had lost. Their ships had been decimated, their forces scattered, and the once proud leaders of the galaxy were now facing extinction. "We've failed," Selver muttered, his voice low with grief. "Everything we've worked for, it's gone." But even as the devastation sank in, the leaders of the surviving systems knew they could not surrender completely. The galaxy was vast, and the Council's ideals had long been embedded in the hearts of its many inhabitants. But now there was no leader, no guiding hand to maintain order. The galaxy was falling into chaos. Caden Darnell, still watching from the quiet corners of the galaxy, reflected on the war he had helped ignite. It had started with the ancient fleet's awakening, a long-forgotten relic of humanity's power. But now that it had been unleashed, the consequences were undeniable. Humanity's return had shattered the delicate balance of the galaxy. Caden had once thought that the return of Earth's fleet would bring unity, but he had been wrong. Instead, it had brought destruction. The Council was gone, and the power vacuum left behind was creating uncertainty and fear among the galaxy's remaining civilizations. The survivors of the Galactic Council were scattered, their once proud fleets reduced to a fraction of their former strength. Some systems, realizing the magnitude of their defeat, were already beginning to consider their options. Would they align themselves with Earth, or would they rise up and challenge humanity's newfound dominance? Caden knew that this was only the beginning. Earth's fleet, with its superior technology and relentless will, would be a force to be reckoned with for generations to come. But the galaxy was far from defeated. There were those who would resist, who would rise against Earth's newfound power. Back aboard the Eclipse, Juno sat in the command chair, her eyes cold and determined. The battle was won, but she could feel the storm still brewing. Earth had made its presence known, but the fight for the galaxy was far from over. The message she had sent to the remaining systems echoed across the galaxy. Earth will rebuild the galaxy as it was meant to be. The Council is no more. We now control the stars. The message was clear. The era of the Galactic Council had ended, and Earth was now the dominant force in the galaxy. But with that power came a new set of challenges. The galaxy would not be subdued easily. There would be those who resisted, who fought back against Earth's rise to power. The seeds of rebellion had already been planted, and as Juno gazed out into the void, she realized that the galaxy was now divided. It was a galaxy torn apart by war and fear, but also by hope and possibility. Earth had awakened, and it had shaken the very foundations of the galaxy. But the question now was, what would humanity do with this power? Would they become the rulers of the galaxy, or would they be swept away by the chaos they had created? The galaxy was in ruins, but from the ashes, something new would rise. As Juno prepared for what came next, she knew one thing for certain: the battle for the galaxy was far from over. Earth had awakened, but the future remained uncertain. Would Earth bring peace, or would it ignite an even greater war? The fate of the galaxy now rested in the hands of humanity.